Good morning, second graders. This is our story for the week. It's lesson 28. It's titled Yeh-Shen. Okay, that's a little tricky to say, so try saying it. Yeh-Shen. We have 8 new vocabulary words, so let's go over those first. Our first one is task. My grandfather gave me a task to do. I help him decorate for the party. So a task is a fancy word for a job. Glimmering. The diver saw something flash in the water. It was a group of glimmering fish. Served. I think pizza tastes better when it is served fresh and hot right out of the oven. Content. The girls were content to play outside. It was fine with them not to watch TV. Worn. The teddy bear looks worn. It must be very old. Overjoyed. The children were overjoyed to see each other. They smiled and laughed. Concealed. A smaller doll is concealed inside the larger doll. Valuable. The ring is valuable to my mother. She has had it for many years. Okay, those are our new 8 vocabulary words. Remember, you will see those throughout our story. Okay, let's preview our topic. Our story this week actually is going to be a fairy tale. So before we even read the preview, think about all the fairy tales that you might have read or even watched. A few that come to mind are Cinderella or Snow White or Beauty and the Beast. A fairy tale typically starts with once upon a time and ends with happily ever after. So lots of Disney movies are typically fairy tales. So let's take a look at what this says. It says, people have been telling traditional stories for many years. One kind of traditional story is a fairy tale. Fairy tales tell about events that could not happen in real life. The story often teaches a lesson. Fairy tales usually have a happy ending. You will read a fairy tale about a young girl in Yeh-Shen, and that is the title of our story. Okay, so again, fairy tale is our genre. Remember, genre is, those are different categories of stories. Here is our illustrator, not the author this week. I guess we're just learning about our illustrator, the person that writes or draws the pictures. Jill Dubbin. Jill Dubbin always loved art, even as a child. She and her sister used to spend hours making dolls out of paper. Miss Dubbin used paper to make the pictures for Yeh-Shen. First, she sketched each picture. Next, she picked pieces of paper with different colors and patterns. She cut out pieces of the paper and placed them onto the sketches. The backgrounds and the characters' clothes are all different pieces of paper glued together. Wow, so take a look at that when you're watching the story on your computer. Take a look at the illustrations and the paper that Jill Dubbin used in creating this story. All right, let's get started. Yeh-Shen. Our essential question, which will be, went a little fast there, which will be an assignment today is, what can you learn from reading a fairy tale? Now, the preview told you a little bit that fairy tales usually will teach you a lesson. You can also, before you listen to the story, answer this or think about those Disney movies that you have seen or Disney books that you have read. And what do those stories usually teach you in the end? Okay, for whatever reason, the first page here is not showing up, so I'm just going to read it off of my phone so you can take a listen. This is the beginning of the story. Yeh-Shen was a girl who grew up in China a long, long time ago. Her mother and her father had died, so she lived with her mean stepmother, Jin, and her stepsister, Jun Li. They lived in a cave. Every time Jin looked at Yeh-Shen, she became angry. Yeh-Shen was gentler and kinder than Jin's own daughter, Jun Li. Yeh-Shen, who was also a hard worker. Li was spoiled and lazy. Jin gave Yeh-Shen only rags to wear. She gave her long list of chores to do. When Yeh-Shen finished one task, Jin added 3 more to the list. All right, now this is the next page. Sorry. Yeh-Shen was always busy working. She did not have a chance to make many friends, but she did have one very special friend. This friend had golden eyes, glimmering scales, and a big, beautiful tail. It was a fish that lived in a pond. Every day, Yeh-Shen stopped by the pond and shared some crumbs with the fish. Every day, the fish popped up to greet its friend. Yeh-Shen's stepmother saw this and became furious. She didn't want Yeh-Shen to have any friends, not even a fish. One day, Jin caught the fish and cooked it for dinner. Yeh-Shen cried when she saw her friend served for dinner. She ran out of the cave and sat by the pond. "What's the matter?" an old man asked her. Yeh-Shen told her about her friend the fish. Then he told her about what her stepmother had done. "Listen carefully to me," the old man said. "The bones of that fish hold special powers. Take the bones and bury them in 4 pots. But put 1 pot on each corner of your bed. Whenever you need help, tell the bones what you need. They will make your every wish come true." Yeh-Shen followed the old man's directions. When she got back to the cave, she buried the bones in 4 pots. Then she put the pots by the corners of her bed. She did not have anything to ask for yet, but she felt content knowing that her friend was close by. A few weeks later, the spring festival arrived. At the festival, young men and women could meet. They hoped to fall in love and marry. Jin didn't want to ruin Li's chances of finding a husband, so she ordered Yeh-Shen to stay home and clean. Then she and Li went to the festival. Yeh-Shen did not want to stay home and clean. For the first time since she buried the bones, she had a wish. "I wish I had beautiful clothes," she said to the bones. "I wish I could go to the festival. I wish I could be like all the other girls." As soon as Yeh-Shen said the words, something amazing happened. She was covered in the finest clothes from head to toe. Her old, worn clothes were replaced by a pair of slippers made from silk. Yeh-Shen was overjoyed and grateful for the gifts from her friend. She ran off happily to the festival. Everyone at the festival stopped to stare at Yeh-Shen when she walked in. Who was this beautiful girl in the magnificent clothes? Yeh-Shen had a beautiful time at the festival, but she was worried that her stepmother would notice her. She decided to hurry home, but she ran so fast that one of her silk slippers fell off. It lay in the middle of the road. It was the only sign that Yeh-Shen had visited the festival. At home, Yeh-Shen stuffed her new clothes into the pots. She concealed her one silk slipper too. She changed into her rags and waited for her stepmother to return. Meanwhile, a traveler found the silk slipper on the road. He knew it was valuable, so he gave it to the king. The king was curious to find the owner of the slipper, so he had his men build a hut. Anyone could come in this hut to try on the silk slipper. Yeh-Shen heard about the hut. She wanted her slipper back, so she sneaked out of the cave one night and ran quietly to the hut. As she crept toward the slipper, the king's men grabbed her. The king took one look at Yeh-Shen's rags and thought she was a thief. Yeh-Shen looked up at the king. Her eyes were filled with tears. The king saw how gentle and kind she was. He listened to her words. "Please, I will show you the other slipper," Yeh-Shen whispered to the king. Yeh-Shen led the king to her home. She put on the matching silk slipper and her fine clothes. The king knew then that he wanted to marry her. However, he was angry at how Jin and Li had treated Yeh-Shen. He told them never to come to the castle. So they stayed in their cave for the rest of their lives. All right, that is the end of our story this week. I hope you enjoyed it and tried to compare and contrast this story with probably the story that you're most familiar with, Cinderella. All right, have a great day.